Dr. James R. Estes, 2017 Arthur F. Beyer Distinguished Alumnus. James Jim Russell Estes was born August 28, 1937, to Dow Worley Estes and Bessie Seidlitz Estes. His father was billed as the world's greatest square dance caller. His mother was a descendant of the Goins family, one of the 5 pioneer families in Burke-Burnett. They had 5 children: Bill, Joyce, Wanda, James, and Kenneth. Several were associated with Midwestern State University. James' early years were spent in the rolling plains north and west of Burke-Burnett. By the age of about 5, he recalls being curious about the local trees and other plants, and was concerned about the scarring of the prairie by oil exploration and production, especially saltwater discharge. James began school in Fairview and finished at the big city school of Burke-Burnett after the 2 schools consolidated. In high school, James loved science, history, and math, and made an effort to play sports, lettering in baseball, basketball, and tennis. Estes graduated from BHS in 1955. While trying to decide between Texas Tech or the University of Texas, Dr. James Pearson, a member of the history faculty from Midwestern University, visited James' home. The young professor extolled the quality of the faculty at Midwestern, the value of small classes and personal interaction with caring and compassionate teachers, and a liberal arts educational experience. After a visit with acting president of Midwestern D.L. Ligon, James was sold. At Midwestern, Estes majored in biology with an emphasis on botany. Arthur Beyer's general botany course cemented Jim's desire to study plants, and Dr. Beyer was the single most significant influence on his future career. Most ex-students seem to mention Beyer's true or false tests when they reminisce about Doc's botany classes, but Jim, by the way, Dr. Beyer was the first person to refer to him as Jim, fondly recalls that Dr. Beyer introduced him to the inquiry method of learning that had been developed at Ohio State University, where Dr. Beyer received his master's degree. Estes employed the Socratic method of teaching throughout his career, hopefully with as much enthusiasm as Beyer. He received a B in that general botany class, missed an A by less than half a point. But Estes remains impressed today by Beyer's strict adherence to standards. Estes was elected president of the student government his senior year at MU. He was who's who in American colleges and universities, and who's who at Midwestern. He was a founding member of Amis de Cour, was in the ROTC, and commissioned a second lieutenant in the field artillery. Furthermore, he was an active member of the Scrubs intramural basketball champions. Estes graduated from Midwestern University in 1959. Estes entered the United States Army in 1960, and upon completion of Officers Basic School, he was assigned to the 2nd Battalion of the 3rd Field Artillery in Butzbach, West Germany, where he likes to think that he successfully defended the United States against the Red Horde. After the military, James attended MU for 1 summer, where he met Nancy Arnold. They fell in love. He proposed marriage on the steps of the Aiken Auditorium. Nancy was working at the university's Martin Library. The two were married just before Christmas in 1962. In August of 1963, the newlyweds moved to Corvallis, Oregon, as James had been accepted to the master's program at Oregon State University. He chose OSU because of its international reputation in the plant sciences, and because Dr. Beyer had recommended it for its great program in support of graduate students. Estes found that his botanical education gained at Midwestern served him extremely well in graduate school. As a student, he received 2 National Science Foundation fellowships, and he and Nancy traveled throughout the Northwest to collect species of green sagebrush, especially along the length of the Columbia River, to collect Artemisia lindleyana. On one field trip to Central Oregon, he collected a new species, Artemisia ludoviciana. During his studies, he realized that chromosomal behavior in meiosis in the sagebrush was unusual, and he was able to solve the evolutionary riddle of the origin of this behavior. Each chromosome was represented 4 or 6 times rather than 2. His work was instrumental in establishing a new paradigm on patterns and evolution of chromosome numbers in plants. Estes was invited to go directly into the doctoral program, foregoing a master's degree. Jim received his PhD in botany in 1967 after just 48 months. The Estes family then moved to Oklahoma, where James would join the faculty of the Department of Botany and Microbiology at the University of Oklahoma. Friends in Oregon were worried about the young couple moving to the land of the Okies. Estes began a career-long trend in leading field trips across the states of Oklahoma and Texas. During his tenure at OU, he also curated the Robert Bebb Herbarium and modernized collection storage and care. During his 29-year tenure at OU, Estes was a visiting faculty member of the California Agriculture Experiment Station and was on leave from OU for 2 stints as a visiting scientist at the National Science Foundation. Back at Oklahoma, Estes was working with a team of pharmacologists and ethnobotanists from the U.S. and Japan that revealed a number of compounds from native U.S. plants with medical and dietary potential. Estes' impact at OU will live forever. He has edited 7 books and published about 120 articles. He was a firm adherent in the Art Beyer adage that teachers should strive to ensure that their students exceed them. Jim's students went well beyond his skills in chromosystematics, molecular systematics, and the use of electron microscopy. Estes programs received several grants while at OU. Jim's work at OU was recognized by his selection as an emeritus professor and curator emeritus when the Estes left Soonerland in 1996. James became the director of the University of Nebraska State Museum. UNSM is one of the 5 largest university-based natural history museums in the United States and the most comprehensive. The museum includes over 15 million natural history objects, a large public museum in Lincoln, 2 branch museums, and extensive programs in distance education. Its fossil, beetle, and parasite collections are premier collections in the world. While at Nebraska, Nancy was president of the Faculty Women's Club and worked diligently with the Friends of the State Museum. It was a real partnership. The museum grew significantly in terms of collections, grants, and exhibits during his tenure as director. One of the most enduring and endearing specimens at the State Museum is Archie, the largest complete specimen yet found of one of the largest land mammals, the ice-aged Columbian mammoth. While director of the museum, Jim completed the private funding campaign to erect a life-size bronze statue of Archie. Estes also produced the premier performance of 2 modern dances, Remembering Archie and Extinction is Forever, which celebrate the life of the dominant land animal in the Ice Age grasslands of North America and the search for fossils. Jim retired from the University of Nebraska in 2002. The Estes returned to Burke-Burnett, Texas, where they still reside. They are both very involved in the Wichita Falls and Burke-Burnett communities. They have 2 daughters, both Oklahomans, Jenny and Susan. After living in Seattle for 2 decades, Jennifer Estes is once again living in Norman, Oklahoma, and works for Amazon. She and Stephen McCaleb of Norman were married in August. Susan Estes Homemaker is a budget analyst on contract with the United States Navy. She lives and works in Arlington, Virginia. She and her late husband, Charles, have a 12-year-old daughter, Carolina. Just maybe she is a future Mustang. Estes mentioned the camaraderie of several close friends and roommates from Memorial Hall: Marvin Foster, Donald Bennett, Boyce Four, and Danny Schaffner. James and Nancy Estes love to travel for fun or work. They have been to Berlin, Rome, Israel, Jordan, Hong Kong, England, Wales, Mexico, Italy, Canada, Indonesia, Singapore, Spain, France, and the Caribbean. And as Dr. Beyer was so very fond of saying, how about that?